So this is my, I guess my main travel bullet journal, you could say. It's the first one I started. Isn't it beautiful? Look at those colors, they're so vivid. So when I went through it, I decided that the first pages should just be a record of places I wanted to go. In particular, you can see I've sorted them generally by continent. Some of them I have broken them down more specifically by country, and so on here. Mostly they are places, like just, Finland, nothing specific there. Over here you do have some others, like you have the States, Yellowstone National Park, but mostly they're countries that I want to see. And this was the first thing I wanted to put in because I was finding so many places that I wanted to put on a list. For example, on my blog where I've got my places I want to see, but I couldn't add them fast enough, I suppose, and I wanted something that was a bit easier to format, something a bit more colorful, and a place to just jot them down really quickly and save them so they didn't stay on my whiteboard for a month and stain it and all those sorts of things. So here is this, and I keep adding to it. I've checked off one so far, Slovakia. I went there in December, as you probably know if you've been following the blog. Recently, I did add a back side to it of other travel wants because I saw a list of a bunch of train trips that you can take in various places, mostly in Europe. And I really like trains. I can't explain why, I just love them, especially if they are more old-fashioned. So you can see I've got a bunch of different train trips that I would like to take one day. And there's one or two, I think there's just one actually on this list in Hungary, that I'm gonna have to look at one day because that would be wonderful and fairly easy to get to. The rest are a little bit further away: Norway, Russia, Scotland, Canada. That not so easy to get to from here. Australia particularly. And then as I add other things, for example, maybe foods I want to try or something, I'll add another little bucket. Do they look like buckets? I hope so. That was my goal. All right, over here we've got my very rough map. I've color-coded it, again, by continent or how I break it up. Of course, this part's always hard to break up. Is it part of Asia, part of whatever, so on. And I've colored in a rough estimate. I haven't measured to say this is 5% or this is 10% or anything. A rough percentage of the world I visited by continent. And the Pacific is going to be all through here, so don't think that I've covered a bunch of it just because Australia is mostly covered up. I think it's fairly self-explanatory. You can see here I've got some budget goals. It's not so much my planning of it, it's a summary of, well, okay, this is close, and so it's probably only going to cost this much. And it's a very, very rough estimate. I've done almost no research into it yet, but it's something if I say, okay, well, I have $200 I can spend this weekend, and I have time only to go somewhere close. Okay, well, what's close, and how much is it going to cost, and just plan from there. In theory, I was going to save up and mark it off, but I'm really bad at keeping track of that, especially with budgeting. I've never been good at that. So instead I've just said one square is $25 and left it at that. You can see I've written local over here, but on the back I've got global, and I decided to do it backwards because you could already see through it because I wrote in marker, but I thought it'd be kind of cool, like pretending it's a window or something, a piece of glass that you can see through. And so I've got all of these. I'm actually going to Prague soon for a trip, and I've allotted $200 for it. If I'd gone by myself, I suppose it would have been that much. I don't know exactly how much. It might still be that much now. But yeah, so that'll come off my list soon here. But these are all other countries, and it's just a general estimate. So if I ever go to Romania, it's close to Hungary, but of course it's still international. I'll have to take longer trips, longer trains. And so there's that. And I've written by some of them when I think it'd be best to go in terms of having a long break or things that could be happening. So for example, if there was an event going on in September, I could write that down. And that's my main part here, my main part. And then I started getting into the countries. You can see my very rough, very bad map of Hungary. I'm not an artist, and I didn't actually look at a map very closely when I did this. I just sort of jotted it from memory. And everything is not to scale. I did the flag instead of the country name. I just thought that'd be nice and pretty instead of just writing the country all the time. And you can see because Budapest, the capital's right here, I've written all the things I want to do in Budapest at the top. I've already done some of them, so I haven't added those to the list. There's one like seeing Hero Square. Technically I did that. I saw it from a distance and I took a picture, but I didn't actually walk around in it, so I left that on the list. But these are all things I have yet to do. And then everything else is pretty much, that's a lake, that's a town, that's a town, that's a town, and so on. There are some national parks and whatnot on my lists. There's a national park I want to see, a good karst system. It goes right here into Slovakia. Really want to get up there. And here's my meter on the side visited. You can see down here, Budapest, Sarkad, all these other places I've been, Szolnok. Debrecen is hashed because I technically went there on a field trip for a day, but I stayed in the building where the field trip was, so I didn't actually get to see the town, so it doesn't quite count. And then I started adding the countries I've been to and want to go to. And for these, I did look at a map, and Iceland has so many of these little crevices, I guess you could say, nooks and crannies, whatever, in its landscape, that it ended up being way more detailed than Hungary's and looking a lot better in my opinion. It's not perfect, but it's not bad either. And the capital here is Reykjavik, and I did do some stuff there, and so those are not on this list. I actually think I did most of the stuff I wanted to see in Reykjavik. But there's of course a few other things, and I've kept it close by. I tend to designate one part of the page to the capital, so Hungary, Budapest was here, so up here, Reykjavik, so everything in Reykjavik I want to do is here or nearby since it's kind of close. And then I've just got the list of other places. I tend to keep them close to where they are, so you can see this is right here, and so everything up north is up north, and so on. Visited, I've only done Reykjavik and the island, the island, which is up here just off the coast. I counted it as 2 because technically, so there's that. And now it's all places I have not yet been, but I want to go. So here's Romania. So far, these are all places up north. The capital is down here, so anything I want to do in the capital, I'll add later. And I've got a sort of plan of if I had time to sort of travel through the country, say during the summer, then that's the order I might want to go in. Probably start at the bottom and work my way back up. Nothing yet visited. Next here, you can see we've got Austria. Here's Vienna. So everything for Vienna is going to go kind of on this side. Only 2 places they were recommended to me, I believe, by someone. And here we go, Slovakia. I was there, of course. You can read about the Christmas market that I visited and the other things I saw while I was there one weekend. We did a lot in one day, so it's kind of it's just a lot of pictures and a lot of information. So Bratislava's down here at the bottom. Last, I have Greenland. And this is the map that I've drawn of that. You can see I'm messed up, unfortunately. That drives me crazy. But whatever, it's done. The capital's here. I don't have anything particularly in the capital. I've got a couple things, but it wasn't enough for me to write down on here. So I just left it at that. And then everything else is written around. And because it's a smaller list, well, no, that's not true. Because I wrote it sideways, a different way. I wrote it vertically instead of horizontally. I kept the measure the same, the meters the same length. It just looks a lot shorter. And then the next pages I've dedicated to, Denmark I want to see one day, Switzerland, Lithuania, just everywhere is going to get a place eventually whenever I start getting around to it. Some days I'm in the mood to draw, some days I'm not. It takes some time, I've got to figure it out. But that's that, so that's this one. And let me know if you like it, if you do something similar, if you have suggestions, I would love to hear.